Welcome back, everybody. This is Family Time 230. We're talking about technology and communication. We talk about communication a lot because it's so important in all of our relationships. Strong communication is a fundamental element of a strong and healthy relationship. But our contemporary technologies have become integrated into the way we communicate. So we have to consider how those technologies impact our communication. And it's crazy to think about how quickly our modern technologies have become a part of the way we interact with the world. It may not seem that way if you're a student and you've had cell phones and social media your entire life, but in terms of human history, this technology is so new and it's leading to ways we communicate that are so different from any other moment in human history. You think for most of human history, communication was face to face interactions. Then eventually you have things like written language. You can share letters and stories. And then, still in pretty modern human history, you have things like radio, television, the internet. But that's all really in the last couple generations, last several generations of humanity. It's kind of crazy. Then we've got this explosion of new technology. And most of the stuff that we think of now in terms of communicating through technology has come about like since I've been in college to now. And that's crazy to think about how short a time that is. So I looked up a couple stats. I was kind of thinking of like how technology came into my life in terms of communication because I grew up. I'm very grateful. I grew up. I was one of the last kind of generations to, as a kid growing up north end of Mesa City. There's a lot of times I was kind of out and doing my thing with my friends, with my cousins, no cell phones, no way to get a hold of parents, whatever. You kind of just left for the day if it was the summertime and you're out doing things and you had to just figure stuff out. And I'm glad I grew up that way. And I got to kind of enter into high school, do most of my high school life like that. I don't think I had a cell phone until I want to say my senior year of high school. And I was kind of a late adopter. The kind of Nokia was the famous cell phone in that era. And there was before the famous Nokia brick, there was like the Nokia that was kind of longer and it had like a little antenna thing on top. And there were a good number of kids in high school who had those, but I was kind of a late adopter. I'm not a huge fan of cell phones, quite honestly. So I wasn't like super interested, but I got I think a track phone in my senior year, going into my senior year. And a track phone, if you don't know, was like a cell phone you had, and you would pay for the individual minutes that you would use on that phone. So like if you had 2 hours of minutes, 120 minutes on there, that meant you could make 2 hours of phone calls in that month. Or you'd pay more like a track phone, you just put more money on there for more minutes. And that's how like cell phones worked, which probably seems crazy to a lot of you students now. But you would pay for minutes. So there'd be different cell phone plans. You're like, well, here's how many minutes I get. And then like texting. Texting wasn't big right away. In fact, I don't think my first phone had texting. And I and a lot of people thought texting was like dumb. Like, don't text me, man. Like, call me. Don't send me a message. I gotta type a thing back. But then pretty quickly that became like the preferred form of communication. Now it's like Snapchat or whatever instead of a regular text. But if somebody called you for some little thing, you'd be what do you do? Why are you calling me? Just send me this in a text. I'm kind of that way too. But like 1998, when I was in eighth grade, that's kind of when that first popular Nokia came out. And slowly people were getting it. It was kind of a novelty at first. And then, like I said, by my senior year, more cell phones. And then when I was going into college, that's when I got like the Nokia brick, right? And it was like, okay, to have So, and that's when it came out. It came out in 2003. I graduated in 2003, went to college in 2003. That's when the famous Nokia brick came out. So I had that, which those were awesome. Little phone. They were like super durable. But I like had that, and you could call and you could text. Okay, pretty cool. Had Snake on it. That was the game. Go around and get the little dots. And then things continue to change pretty rapidly. I never had a computer, like a personal computer, the whole time in college. You go to the computer lab, and of course, there's the internet there. And that's when social media really started popping off. There was a couple other like smaller entities, but MySpace came out in September 2003. So that's like the beginning of my freshman year of college. And MySpace was like a big deal. A lot of you probably don't even know what MySpace is, but for a while it was like, what's going to be the bigger social media platform, MySpace or Facebook? Facebook won. But that came out beginning of my freshman year. And then like toward the end of my freshman year in college, Facebook came out. Facebook came out at Harvard first, and then it went to like all universities. So like for a while, you had to have a university school email to even sign up for Facebook. It wasn't for the general population, which is funny to think about. It started as like this hip college thing, and now Facebook is for like grandmas and stuff. That's who really utilizes Facebook. But, that's all happened. Again, it may seem like when I was in college was a long time ago to some of you, but like in terms of history, that's nothing. It's the blink of an eye where these ways of communicating are new. I remember, because Facebook started at Harvard and then went to bigger universities first. So I remember a friend of mine who was at the University of Iowa. I was talking to him on the phone one day, and he was like, "Hey man, you should get Facebook." And that's like a weird thing to say to somebody who's never heard those words before. Like, Facebook? Like, what does that mean? And he was like, "Well, you can put your pictures on there, and other people can put pictures on there, and like you can see what people are doing." And I remember thinking, why would anyone want this? Why would I care what other people are doing all the time? Which I largely still feel that way. But I remember a group of us, we all went to the computer lab in the dorms, and we signed up for like MySpace and Facebook. We made these accounts, right? And back then too, we didn't have smartphones. So you couldn't like take a picture and post it to a social media app. You would like take pictures with a digital camera and then plug it into the computer and then upload them to Facebook if you wanted. So it's just kind of crazy. Like we had those things. And then like the smartphone, that doesn't really start going until after I'm out of college. Like the first iPhone comes out after I graduate from college in 2007. And that was still like kind of a novelty. It was kind of like, oh, look at this big iPod that can also call people and text. Like, okay, cool. But there weren't a ton of apps, things like that. Around 2010, smartphones kind of take over. And over like the next 5 years, like they really blow up. And I had a pretty early, like in that run, I got a smartphone in 2010, I think 2010 or 2011, probably 2011. I became the athletic director at St. Ansgar, and I got a smartphone because it was nice to be able to answer emails from my phone. I was like, oh, this is really cool and really convenient. And that's kind of mostly what I used it for, is like that type of communication. I could look up, stuff that I had saved in my emails or saved documents, stuff like that. By 2016, 80% of all mobile phone users, cell phone users in the US have smartphones. So like, boom, in that short amount of time, the cell phone kind of takes over. So in that run is where you have like the bigger explosion of social media apps. Instagram comes out in 2010, Snapchat comes out in 2011, TikTok comes out in 2016. So again, that may seem like a while ago to you. Like 2016 is 9 years ago for TikTok. Like that's a communication platform that has only existed for 9 years. Like think of, like the way we communicate face to face, like verbal communication, our body language, our nonverbal communication, that's been around for generations and generations and centuries, and TikTok is 9 years old. So we have to understand that, like, we're kind of still at the infant stages of how social media and technology fits into our lives. And that could kind of be a scary thing, especially now. Like, there's so much information available. We've talked about it's easy to fall into like the echo chambers of kind of of filling our own biases. That can be dangerous. There's also so much information that it's hard to parse out what's real, especially now with artificial intelligence and deep fakes and stuff like that. Like, we literally don't know if something we're seeing is real. Even something like an Instagram or TikTok influencer, we're seeing images that have been catered. Like a fitness influencer may not look that way all the time, probably doesn't, but in this light and after a workout and whatever, and like, you can kind of manipulate things. So that becomes a really, really dangerous thing. And those are the conversations I want to have this week. I don't need to talk on about it too much here, but I want you thinking about, like, how does technology impact the way you communicate? And in a broader sense, then, how does it impact your relationships? How does it impact your mental health? And I'm not demonizing our modern technologies. There's a lot of it that I'm not particularly interested in, but I think that's an important thing that everybody has to decide, because, like, a lot of stuff, some of this technology is just because it's broadly accepted. Like, we kind of feel like we have to participate in it. Like, I've been lately more and more trying to delete more stuff and just be less connected to it, because I don't feel it brings a ton of value to my life. And those are things we have to decide. So we're going to talk about technology communication this week, how it impacts your life specifically, good and bad. I'm not just talking about negative things. There's a lot of positive stuff. I love, like, the educational aspect of my phone. I love GPS. GPS is my favorite. I can admit, as a man, that I have little to no sense of direction. It's okay. I've accepted that in my life. I could go somewhere 50 times and not remember how to get there. But GPS is pretty rocking. I love being able to put it in my phone and be able to navigate things. Really, like GPS and Spotify, if I could just rock that on my phone, the rest of the stuff, I'd be pretty well, pretty good leaving. Maybe be able to connect with like a couple people, my wife, my kids, things like that. I'd be set. So I want you to think about the technology, the way it impacts your life, what you interact with on a regular basis. All right, till next time, much love.